Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
Hello, everybody. This is episode 60 of the Chris and Andre Show. I'm Andre.
And I'm Chris.
We're glad you joined us today. It's been a it's only Tuesday, but yeah. You've been doing a good job of getting episodes up. So over time, people will start to realize that we're recording this on March 30th and everything else is in the past. And it's kind of weird.
I mean, there are certain things that certainly give it away. I think episode 57, which published this morning, had a brief segment at the end where we gave our predictions for the then upcoming ACC tournament.
Yeah. I was wrong, needless to say.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the YouTube element of it has seemingly kind of reinvigorated or remotivated me to get back on this stuff. And Andre's like, well, if you needed a reason, didn't have to look far. But yeah, like, I don't know, it's fun exploring the new medium. Like the video portions that we're doing right now are not super complicated. If anybody has listened to our normal podcast and now watch some of our actual episodes, full episodes on YouTube, you'll notice that the YouTube episodes don't have like the topic intros, which I'm sure are the top reason most people started listening to this podcast to begin with. But aside from that, I mean, that's really all you're missing.
Yeah.
And now that we do a fairly good job of censoring ourselves, I don't worry. I'm just at the point, I'm like, well, you know what? The video may have some profanity, but...
I think rated R, you can have up to 3 F-bombs.
Is it 3 now?
I think so.
Okay. So I thought it was just 1, but... No, you know what? You can... 1 for PG-13 is what it is.
Oh,
you can have a PG-13 rating, but you can still get 1 because it was, I think like Days of Future Past or one of the X-Men movies where they go to see Wolverine in the bar and he's like, that was their 1 and that was what they saved it for, which is great.
Okay. So as long as we know that, we just have to have some type of...
We'll have a counter. Have a little digital counter up in the corner here that's
ding. So speaking of sports, I'm not excited about the upcoming football season. I've been trying. Actually, I'll say this: my seasons was ruined last year, and it's right about in the same path this year.
What ruined your season last year? Just as a refresher.
COVID.
Okay.
COVID, like everything sports related was just off because of COVID.
Yeah.
And right now it's not starting very well. The NCAA, like Carolina lost early. Let's see what else. The trades at Denver, Philip Lindsay going to the Texans, I believe, on a 2-year deal is awful.
I mean, I feel bad for Philip Lindsay in that outcome. But I don't know. I think, it was one of those things where this obviously being a very weird offseason with the decreasing cap space versus, the normal growing cap space that they're used to, I think has caused some things. But for the most part, it seems like it's been a lot of restructuring, extending in order to rework money so that you get a lower cap hit now with larger cap hits in the future and that sort of thing. Which is only like minorly interesting to me. Like there's an element of that financial stuff where I'm like, oh, that is kind of interesting how you have to look at, where you invest in the team. But ultimately, I get to a point where I'm just like, that's great. Can we go play some football now?
I think salary caps only helps out the team management. They don't really help out the team like overall strategy. Like you can pick up. Let's say you pick up a quarterback for $30 million for a 4-year deal, right? If the quarterback sucks, I mean, he sucks.
Yeah.
So I just don't really care about that. Like I'm interested to some degree, but not to a great degree.
Yeah, I paid a little bit of attention to kind of what was going on this off season. Like this, I'll be honest, this is a unique off season for me in a lot of ways. It's the first time that I've really been like since I became a pretty fervent NFL and football fan, that I don't have a team with Phillip Rivers on it that I can pull for. Like, I guess I'm going to have to start pulling for whatever high school he's coaching down in Georgia, and like somehow, getting live feeds on YouTube or something.
I just hit my
I know
mic.
you did. That's how bad that was. No, but I do find myself less invested, I guess, in like the Russell Wilson train. I think is starting to leave the station in terms of like how much I'm just like, kind of blindly going to continue supporting that guy.
Yeah, I
It's just kind of one of those, it's like you won a Super Bowl, like, and I'm glad, like I really loved that moment for, it was a lot of fun to enjoy. It's pretty much the only time in my life that I can remember one of my teams actually winning something while I was watching. Like I was thinking about it today, and I'm sorry to do this, but NC State. So I was born in 1984, July of 1984, right? The last time that they won a national title in anything was the 83, men's basketball team, right? So the year before I was born.
okay.
So I wasn't even alive. I didn't even become an NC State fan until 2002, 2003, when I first started going there. So I didn't even have to experience all of that time, but I couldn't even like have witnessed it vicariously and then become a fan later. Like I have literally never once watched the the men's team in basketball or football win an ACC title, or like any real significant. Like I don't even think they've won the NIT.
Actually, they haven't.
Right. I mean, like...
No, they haven't. They've been to the NIT a lot.
Right. Well, and it's like, what's frustrating, and I was trying to think if there's a way to I guess position this. I'm trying not to do this in a way that diminishes these other sports, but like we have won national championships in wrestling, and like, we won an ACC championship twice in a row now in women's basketball. So it's like it's possible to have, it's like we have had people who have been put in place to succeed and have the facilities and everything that they need essentially to go win a championship. But for whatever reason, in these like two sports, we just cannot get out of our own way. And
well, the men's soccer team, the women's soccer team, they're actually pretty competitive.
They are.
The baseball
like
team.
The baseball team, okay, came into the season and was like, almost every year, State is either comes into the season in baseball with like, they could be amazing and then falls flat on their face, or nobody expects anything from them and they look really, really good until they go to like the College World Series and then they fall flat on their face. And even this year, right? It's like supposed to be pretty good. Stunk. Oh, are we playing 11th ranked Carolina at Carolina this weekend? We'll just sweep them. Like all of a sudden we're knocking in grand slams and we have pitchers going complete games. Like,
right.
Okay.
So I think what COVID's done for me is kind of level my expectations for sports in general. And I just want to watch sports. I think that's what it's boiled down to. Like I'm not divested in any team. I'm just probably understanding that these are human beings. Like,
see, and I think like that's part of it too, though. Is there was a moment, and you're gonna laugh probably when I say this, but there was a moment where I actually started kind of feeling bad for the opposing team and like their players. Like in a game where you're just getting completely destroyed. You know, it's like,
Right.
and you just kind of, and it's like, that's gotta really suck. Like, you almost kind of hate it for them.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's like, or this guy who has like a really big mistake in a game, you know, and then everybody hates on him forever. And it's just like, I don't know. At some point, I kind of like recognize that, like, you know what? Like, these aren't characters. They're not super villains and superheroes. Like, they're people, you know? Like, that's where I almost think, because at the same time where I am, like, I certainly have a frustration that I haven't been able to see, you know, my NC State men's teams succeed on the national stage like I'd like them to, right? Or get like some
Right.
level of recognition, just because I think that'd be cool. And so I could stop having to listen to Carolina fans just be like, "Oh, Carolina's bad." But
But don't you think it's a little bit like just relaxing just to enjoy the game?
yes, there is some, and that's why I like when I watch sports on TV now, it's usually games that I don't care about.
Right.
Like, that's what that's the thing that I enjoy, because it is more of a disconnect. It's more of like I just want to watch some sports. I don't want to be, you know, so emotionally invested in what's going on that, you know, and there was a time where like I loved that, you know, like that build up on game day of, oh man, you know, the Chargers have a huge game coming up, or, you know, I mean, if I'm going to an NC State game, like that's totally different. I will get really excited for that. But like I don't know. There are certain things, like today I was watching some football.
Speaking of which, gosh,
Because on my Hulu has the ESPN Plus thing, and so now
the
I get.
U.S. men's team can't go to the Olympics twice in a row because of dumb crap.
I didn't hear about this, so you're gonna have to inform me.
Yeah, there was a goalkeeper mistake in Honduras. Was it Honduras?
Oh, in terms
Yeah.
of like, so like the game, they lost the game
Yeah.
because of a mistake. Okay.
Yeah, keeper mistake. So they didn't qualify for the Olympics again.
So are we gonna fire Arenas a third time?
It wasn't.
Isn't that who is it? Then they fired Klinsman and then they hired Arenas back.
I just think that they should. So the headlines are: U.S. men's Olympic failure shows a lack of leadership, not talent.
Can it be both?
I don't know. I think that I don't know. I just get frustrated because on two fronts. One, they're a very, very talented squad, and two, the women should make more money.
Yeah.
Like there's no justification for that. But I have other teams I can pull for in the Olympics, so it doesn't matter. Although I'm wearing a Barcelona like kit today, so that's always a fight in my house. Like,
well, what is the FIFA game? What are the FIFA games that are going on right now? Because I saw like Portugal was playing.
It's a bunch of friendlies.
Okay, like Luxembourg, and it was Netherlands playing somebody.
Yeah. So, and I believe it was the B squad that was at the Olympics, and I haven't been following all the friendlies, and I'm serious. Like, this is something that if it was a normal year, I'd be watching football like right now, and you know that I watched it at work like all the time, like a ridiculous amount. But
that was always one of my favorite things. I guess it only happened once when we were there. Maybe it was twice.
It was the World Cup.
Yeah, we had the World Cup, and having the guys from Portugal and Argentina and all that stuff that came in, that happened to be there when we were, you know, watching the World Cup and stuff, and we had it on in the big room on the giant projector, and everybody screaming and hollering. And that was back when Donovan was still
his last run.
Yep.
So what was funny was that my feed was like always 10 seconds faster. And so
because you were streaming your Plex stuff from home, right?
Yeah. And nobody was up on that game. They're like watching it on some like God knows
it was
whatever.
ESPN.
Yeah, it was ESPN. But I have Plex is awesome. And I will tell you one of the reasons why I got into TV streaming and like streaming things from my home network was we went to Florida for I almost said holiday, for vacation, and it was during the World Cup. So we're at Disney. I went down there originally for work. There was a convention, and my wife and daughter went down with me because I was going to take vacation after the convention. Um, so we're at Disney. I'm watching the World Cup. I'm literally in Disney with my phone, streaming games to my phone. So we're at, what's a small world, and I'm
Uh-huh.
with my wife and I are watching Peru versus like Bolivia or something. So
Nice.
it was so amazing, and like I got addicted to that experience. Like when you think about it, uh, and for me, like I put a TV in my kitchen for the World Cup. So the World Cup is that's a big thing in my house. Uh, International soccer is important in my house. Like we will watch every game, doesn't matter where we're at. Um, yeah, but I do love soccer, but I will tell you, like that's probably soccer and football are my top two sports.
So football and football.
Football and football. Yeah. And I'm like a lot of my friends like will watch like the Super Bowl and they're typically immigrants. And so I always get frustrated when I'm watching football with them because I'm like, I got to explain this to you. Like, I don't want to explain it to anybody like this. You're ruining the game for me.
See, and that's why like we need to just fix that, and
Yeah.
like on, you
We need
come
that
watch
bigger parties.
yeah, come watch football with me and go watch football with them. And
Yeah. But I'm a loud guy when I'm watching like a team I want to see. I'm really loud.
oh yeah, I mean I'm obnoxious.
Yeah, I coach from the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Coach with a beer. I coach and I cheer. I mean, it's like a whole. It's a thing.
I get upset. I turn the TV off. I go try and do something for a few minutes. I get an update on my phone. They're down by 3 more scores.
Yeah, so it's been an off. It's probably gonna change my sports dynamic because the only thing I have to look forward to is like the Olympics and the World Cup. I don't think. Of course, I'm going to watch football next year. I'm going to watch the playoffs. I kind of feel like the Lakers are going to win it, but it's not the same. So hopefully, there's a reboot next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as convinced that the Lakers are going to win it only because of the injuries to Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
And LeBron. Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't care that much about basketball this year. Like I think in part because it feels like we just got done with the basketball season.
We literally did.
Yeah, right? And so like because that was pushed back so far, it's just kind of but the truth is like I never really paid that close attention to the regular season. And even during like the bubble stuff, like when they came back and were playing before they went to the playoffs or, however, I only watched a few games. Because I don't know.
Well, it's a good thing we're not a sports podcast because we would be pretty
just a sports
screwed.
podcast.
Yeah, that would be like, God, these guys are pissed. Like
Yeah.
every episode would be like just frustration and anger.
Watch some more sports. What is wrong with you guys? No, but in place of sports, I have been watching a lot of movies and shows. That was basically my entire weekend. I got caught up on a whole bunch of stuff that I've been meaning and needing to watch for a while. And so, okay, so like last week we talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier
God, I love that show.
a little bit. And yes, I am now all caught up. I watched both episodes. I am very frustrated that they won't just give it all to me at once. Because I would have watched it all this weekend.
But it's a brilliant show, right?
I really enjoy it so far. I really
that's so
hate the fake Captain America guy.
U.S. agent John Walker.
Yeah, he's a tool. So yeah, like that's been really good though. I like the way that they've structured that show so far. Still haven't watched any WandaVision. I'm just gonna get through that first. I did watch. I don't know if you watched this yet, but Coming to America.
Yeah,
the new one.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't think they needed to make that movie.
Well, no, they didn't need to make that movie.
They probably shouldn't have.
What did you not like about it?
About 80% of it. I just wasn't. It wasn't engaging to me. The story, the plot was interesting, right? I just didn't. It was interesting. Yeah. So okay.
I didn't care about the plot. The plot was never was. I mean, was the plot of the first movie that important? No, it's hilarious because it's. Did you like the first movie?
I did.
Okay.
It's like a classic.
Yeah. I mean, it is my all-time favorite movie. So
yeah, they ruined it by making the second movie.
and that's what I thought was going to happen. And I think this is part of it, is that I have just set my expectations ridiculously low for things lately when it comes to like movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I find that I come out enjoying it so much more in a lot of cases. Not always. I mean, like
So how do you screw up the pairing of Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall? Is my question. I think that there wasn't enough of that pairing in the movie, and that's what took away from it being a good movie, in my opinion. Even though the story wasn't about their friendship, but that was, I believe, for me, that's what made a lot of the first movie.
I don't disagree that was a key part of the first movie. I guess, I don't know. There was enough throwback stuff that I found myself like cracking up and laughing and going, "Oh my God." Like,
then you could have watched the first movie again to call it a day. You didn't have to have a freaking almost.
No, I disagree because
it was a soft reboot. I didn't like it. Tell me it wasn't a soft reboot.
It wasn't a soft reboot.
You're a liar. It was a soft reboot. It just didn't. The movie didn't make sense. Like, it just didn't.
Again, I agree. There were parts of it, like, okay, the ridiculous.
Let me take that. Let me kind of. I enjoy Eddie Murphy and I love seeing him on screen, and I am a big fan of Arsenio Hall because he's Arsenio Hall. Ooh, 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 dog pound, blah blah blah. The movie was not. It was just way too hyped up, and it didn't meet.
But
any
see, that's what I'm saying, is that I think. What ultimately did you expect? Did you expect it to be the same magic as the first movie,
or at least part of it? I mean,
how do you do that without basically just kind of hearkening back to what you did 30 years ago and trying to put some element of a new spin on it, which is what I feel like they did.
I'm not a screenwriter.
Well, I know you're not, but like that's what I'm saying is like, okay, so I'm not saying that it was your fault, but I'm just saying that ultimately I came away from it because I had heard from people it's not that good. Like, it was okay, it wasn't that great, and I'm like, I even said to Christy before we started it, all right, because we had watched most of the first one. She had never seen it before.
What?
Yeah, I know. You got to remember, like, she grew up in Germany, and so there was a lot of, like, the early 80s, mid-80s, like, cultural stuff.
What are you talking about? When I lived in Europe, it was all about Sky Channel, and...
Look, I'm just telling you what she told me, all right? You take it up with her.
I'm not.
But
you had to edit this whole part out because she's.
So we watched the rest of it. We had like 15 minutes left. It was something where like I don't remember. Like, we had stopped it for something and then we never ended up finishing it. And so we were like, okay, we'll watch. We'll back it up like 5 minutes. We'll watch the last 20 minutes of this one, and then we'll go straight into the next one. And so as we transitioned from one to the other, I was like, all right, well, you ready to just burn everything that you appreciated about that last one to the ground? And she was like, what are we doing? And I was like, she was like, is it not good? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a 30-year-old sequel. Like, I can't imagine that it's that great. And I think, like, I came away from it going, it wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. Like, I had a lot of fun while I was watching it.
It was entertaining, right?
And that's all I wanted from it. I wanted an hour and 45 minutes of entertainment with an Eddie Murphy that I haven't seen in forever.
And I'll give the movie that. It was entertaining. Did it meet up to the expectations I probably set way too high in my head? The answer is no.
Did you
I mean,
not like Wesley Snipes?
oh, he was funny.
That was
Like
pretty funny.
that. I mean, it was entertaining, but I thought that they were gonna like not move the storyline forward, but at least be as good. And I don't like campy stuff anyway. All the slapstick stuff, that's just not me, right? And I think Eddie Murphy has done like from Boomerang to um a lot of like most of his movies, it's not slapstick. It's just funny, right? And there was way too much slapstick, like campy stuff. I just didn't like it.
Okay, so I just got like, we're talking about Coming to America when we're talking about the first movie, right?
It
Like,
was funny because there was the cultural differences. So for me, that was what I thought was hilarious about it, right? Because
so
there's
did you not find that humorous in the second one?
I think it was kind of the whole McDowell scene, like that was overplayed for me, right?
You just took that personally.
No, I just thought it like they
Don't
established
lie.
they established that very well in the very in the first movie, right? They didn't have to like rehash that about the lawsuits. There were things where it's kind of like, yeah, you already did that. You're making the assumption that people didn't see the first movie, right?
But
It's like
see, that's where I think to some degree, because not everybody is going to have necessarily seen the first one.
I
right?
thought you were about to call me old.
No.
was like-
What I was going to say is that there will be people who watch it because their parents watched the first one and were like, you got to watch this, right?
That's fair.
And so, like, I feel like there are some of those jokes that, yeah, like you kind of got to pepper it in. And it's like the McFlurry and McFlurry or whatever, McBlurry.
Yeah. It
was dumb. Like it was. Yeah. Like not everything was a hit, but
yeah. Some of the jokes didn't hit well. And I was just like, all right. And that I'm saying the movie was entertaining. I watched the whole thing, right? It wasn't like I turned it off. Like when a movie's that bad, there are sometimes like Geely, yeah, that was terrible. Alex Cross I've never seen any more than 45 seconds of that movie. I remember watching it with my youngest son.
That was Tyler Perry trying to be serious, right?
Yeah, we looked at each other and he was like, kill it. I'm like, yep. So there are a few movies where I'm just like,
Medea becomes a spy.
Yeah, I'm not down with that. I try to give Tyler Perry a pass, I'm like, but I'm like, this is awful.
See, it's funny that you mentioned that because at the beginning of this conversation, I was thinking about Blackish and when Kenya doesn't like the movie that came out and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Like, I was sitting here like, what are you talking about? It's a great movie. And you're like, no, man, it's garbage. Like,
yeah, he gets so much crap from my community and I get it. And it's like, I think for, for black is, black AF, right? I think.
Oh, that's sorry, not Blackish, but black
yeah.
AF.
I try to do the corrections in a polite way. Some people try to correct me in public. I'm just saying. I know he gets a lot of heat, but I think he's actually able to make some of those conversations like doable.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right or that it's going to come across as like some bridge. Hi.
Hey.
Now you're on camera.
I need the 1872.
No, we have to edit that part out. No. We're putting all these on YouTube, right? Yeah. All right. So, all right. Commercial break. We don't have grandchildren, but we do have granddogs. So my son went to see his brother in California, and we now are the what is it, dog grandparents or something like that?
Yeah.
Of our lovely, brilliant, like humongous pit bull.
Oh, nice.
Until he starts running around the house and like he thinks everything is like as big as he is, and it's not. It's like I'm not as big as you are. Anyway, um,
So we were talking a little bit about Kenya and Black AF and Tyler Perry and that stuff. I always thought it was really interesting, the episode where he goes and talks to Tyler Perry and gets his kind of whole take on, the movies and the everything. And he's like, look, this is an inside joke between me and the people that are coming to see my movies. Is that everybody? No. And I'm okay with that. Like,
that's his perspective.
This is my way of kind of like doing my thing. And
I you know what? And that episode for me was actually a good episode because Black people are not a monolith.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Like I've seen both sides of the tracks and it shapes my perspective, like you've seen me in meetings where I'm like, no, I can't say what I'm thinking because, I'm not trying to get fired today.
Well, let's step outside and I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So, and I get that. So, and it actually made me remember that we're as a culture, as a community, we're not a monolith. And my respect for them for having that dialogue, because I think sometimes as the Black community, we forget that, we don't, but I don't think we forget where we came from. I think that we lose a certain perspective that helps us to get our brothers and sisters to like take another step. I don't think it's about losing perspective of like where we came from. And that's a tough conversation, even in the Black community. So just, I think there's a place for Tyler Perry. There's a place for, Kenya and in our media. Like I listened to episode 57, we're talking about representation, right? And I think it's a very complex issue.
Yeah.
I don't have a solve for it, but I think it's worth having the conversation to kind of make that better.
Yeah, because I think, one of the things that we touched on a little bit, but that I think is really important to kind of remember in that representation conversation is that it's not always about seeing necessarily like the same skin color or the same gender or both. Like there are lots of different ways that people can be represented, in these stories, and that just kind of creating different connection points for people with characters is what it really boils down to, and it's not like it's so selfish to think that all the characters should be something that you can instantly and directly connect with, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And I mean, I've certainly been there where I've consumed some sort of, content and come out of it and had a lot of negative thoughts about it. Like, well, that was garbage, blah, 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 blah. And more recently, I think I've tried to soften that a little bit and come at it a little bit more from the perspective of like, okay, I didn't like that. You know, like there might be people out there who really do like that, and that's cool, but I watched it and it just wasn't for me. Like, I mean, we were talking about it on episode 56, the Snyder Cut, right? I sat there on episode 56 and said, Zack Snyder, his whole dark motif, all of this stuff, not my bag. Don't want to see it. Not interested. Oh, I watched the Snyder Cut this weekend. It's pretty good. Still, I mean, like any movie, right? Things where I'm kind of like, oh, no, hold up, they just did what? But I mean, and I will say, 4 hours. We had to split it up over two days because, like,
oh, really?
Yeah, and I mean, we had already watched Coming to America and something else. I feel like before we started that, maybe we did just decide to start that, but we got a couple of hours. We got about halfway into it, and like I had to feed the dogs or something like that, and then take them out. And so when I came back, Christy was passed out. And so I was like, okay, I'll just watch. I put on Shaft and watch that instead, which was a funny side story. I'm flipping through Plex and I'm like, oh, Shaft, cool, Shaft. And I'm watching the first like 30 minutes of it and I'm like, God, Christian Bale looks young. and where's his kid? Like, where did what is going on? And I look it up and I'm like, I'm watching the wrong one. Because Samuel L. Jackson has literally never aged a day in his life. On film, and so I could not tell the difference at the beginnings of the movie. And so I got like 30 minutes into that and I was like, no, this isn't the one I want to watch. And so I switched to the other one and watched all of that. But then we came back the next day and finished the Snyder Cut, the last 2 hours of it. I mean, and it is like, it's a lot. I think they probably could have and maybe should have split it up into 2 movies.
That was the original plan.
I think that would have made a lot more sense than whatever, Joss Whedon tried to do. And I never even saw that version, but just based on the clips I saw on YouTube of like comparing the stuff in each version, I was kind of like, wow. And I used to be a pretty big Joss Whedon fan. Like, I feel like he got a lot of credit for a long time for
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, Buffy and Firefly. Right? Like everybody was all, Firefly Serenity, like, oh, they need to remake that show, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Lately, I've been more like, I mean, especially with all the crap that came out, about him personally, and I know how you feel about, I don't want to know. Like, just.
Actually, I kind of lifted up that rock, and I'm like, yeah, that is suspect, and I get it, but like, does it take away from Buffy? Am I going to stop watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer because he's a complete tool?
Right.
Probably
Am I going
not.
to stop watching the Marvel movies that he was a part of?
Yeah.
No. Like, that's not. You're right. Like, I can sit here and say, okay, I don't agree with what like he did, right? And I'm not really.
I don't rock with that.
I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go out and be like, go get Joss Whedon another job, But. So anyway, sorry, weird sidetrack on that.
But the Snyder Cut.
is
good.
It's good. It was funny because Christy was like, I asked her, I was like, is there anything I need to know going into this? And she was like, no. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then we start the movie and it's like, as it's rolling through the credits and she grabs the remote and pauses it. And I'm like, what's up? And she was like, well, you do remember what happened in Spider-Man or Batman versus Superman, right? And I was like, yeah. Oh. And she was like, Superman dies and Batman kills him. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like that's, I knew that happened. Again, I never saw it, but I knew that happened. And she was like, okay, that's the only thing you really need to know going into it. And I was like, okay, cool. So we watched it. Like I liked the story. And I know that there are parallels throughout the DC and Marvel universes, but it is very funny to watch that and just see all of you can almost picture it shot side by side, like the same type of scenes and setups and those sorts of things between the 2 movies, like you're seeing something happen and I'm like, I remember this exact same type of thing that happened in Avengers. And
the thing I will give, and I'm going to tie both of them together. I think that, actually, I don't think that's true. I think that as far as like the dark human struggle, DC does a better job. I think as far as the reality of social struggles, Marvel does a better job. And I think I kind of touched on that before.
Yeah.
So it's good to see, it's good to see like a Bruce Wayne struggle with like the decisions he has to make. Right. Because you can always say, well, he's got so much power and influence and blah, 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 blah. Why is he struggling with this? I think characters like Batman, Cyborg, right? It was just interesting to see that struggle with what that looks like from a quote unquote hero's point of view.
Still don't love Ben Affleck as Batman or Bruce Wayne. I'm not
okay.
He's not terrible. Like he wasn't as bad as I thought he was going to be. And there were moments that I liked even, but overall I still got done and I was just kind of like, no, that's still just not.
So who's the perfect Bruce Wayne, right? Who do you cast as Bruce Wayne where you're like, oh, that's the character? It's tough, right?
Yeah, I mean it is. It's not.
I will say that Ben Affleck has, like, for me, I think he does a good representation of both characters, not just one or the other. Like Christian Bale, in like, you know, probably a better Batman. I don't see him as Bruce Wayne. Like I struggle with him as Bruce Wayne.
See, I think Christian Bale I saw was sellable as Bruce Wayne to me because of the whole like American Psycho thing. I know you're probably not a big. I mean, I know you're not.
Yeah, that's not me.
Yeah. But that movie was really big when I was in high school, and it was always like, oh my god, you gotta watch this movie, it's so crazy. It's like it was up there with like Fight Club, you know, among the movies where it was like, oh my god, it's the best movie ever. And I don't still think that. In fact, it's been probably 10 years since I've watched that movie, if not longer. But he was, you know, like the Wall Street, you know, posh kind of, and so like I guess I bought it, if maybe only based on that. I actually think that I might like Ben Affleck better as Batman than I did Christian Bale. There were so I think especially the thing that probably I liked the best about that whole movie was the scene at the end in the dream sequence that he has, because his whole just like that whole motif and everything was just,
his demeanor in that scene was amazing.
It was perfect.
It's kind of like when I think of Bruce Wayne, I think of not larger than life, but a person that you could look at them like outside of his Batman costume and have questions like, does he know like what he wields, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the lines in both, actually in Batman versus Superman, he's a better Bruce Wayne. I think his lines in Justice League, he's like I can see him driving through Metropolis trying to save people as Bruce Wayne.
Right.
I was like, that's what sold me, right?
Okay.
But what messed me up was in Justice League was he was so indecisive, and that just kind of, so maybe for me it kind of like made me think, would Bruce Wayne, who's probably smarter than everybody in the room, and not in a technical way, but just reading the situation, would he have struggled in some of those parts? Like, and if he did, what did that look like? And can you sell that? And I kind of stepped back and said, yeah, he would probably be thinking, this is bigger than us. It's kind of like Tony Stark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tony didn't know how to beat Thanos. Like, he was just like, we're going to get our ass kicked. And seeing him like have to struggle through that kind of made me say, that makes sense. And for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think the one scene that probably fell flattest for me, and I think it was actually supposed to have more kind of impact, was when they were initially kind of getting together, as a team, and Aquaman was kind of like arguing about, who was it?
Cyborg.
Yeah, like
he had a lot of like manufactured beef with Cyborg. I didn't really get that.
It was weird because it was like, 1 second he's like, for all we know, you could be this guy, and he's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, no worries. Where it was just like, and I think part of the reason that it fell flat was because I had watched a clip that was talking about, like that iconic scene in the first Avengers movie when they're on the helicarrier in Banner's, and Tony Stark's lab, and it's the big fight, where they're all kind of, and the camera's like going kind of crazy and tilting sideways and all that stuff. And what the point that the YouTube video is trying to make is that, that moment where it feels like it's so close to falling apart for that group, and then for it all to kind of then be brought back together shortly thereafter, right, with everything that happens with Coulson, and that is what really kind of like makes that such a feel good, moment towards the end of the movie, and that was one of the things they felt was kind of missing from the Justice League film and even the Zack Snyder cut. And I think like that scene was kind of supposed to provide that in that moment of distrust and like, who are we? We don't really know. But it almost felt like it was way too easily overcome. And then they were all just like, all right, well, cool. We'll just move on and no worries.
But I've said this before. I think that, and I watched all the YouTube commentary like after the movie. I don't want to
taint your
my perspective of it. And I think that the struggle that we have is that you take the genre of comic books and that demographic of people, right? People that actually grew up reading comic books is shrinking. And you're trying to introduce that to a new audience. And I've had to, like, over the years, ever since Iron Man. And Iron Man, by far, in my top 5 movies of all time, like, just because I'm like, it was brilliantly done. And you're trying to introduce this whole genre in a different medium, like people expect. The bridge is so narrow in how you can really tell the stories.
Yeah.
Because I can look at the, Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman character, and look at like his struggles throughout the years from source material and where he eventually ends up as not just like a laughable guy that talks to dolphins, right? And most people only get to see the fact that he's Jason Momoa. Oh, and he talks to fish, right? So I give him a little bit more latitude than most. And so I think that for me, it's like, yeah, can you expand the universe? And that's the tricky part. I think DC's going to struggle in that aspect with their A-League characters like the Justice League, and I think the Batman may help them, but I think that Marvel's done a good job with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? So the Falcon, although he's an Avenger, like, he was the Falcon. He's like one of the rare black superheroes that I saw as a kid growing up, and I was like, yeah, this is totally dope. I'm not okay with the fact they didn't give him like superpowers. I'm still adjusting to that, but it's kind of a corny superpower, like talking to birds. But I remember, like, as a kid, like even the little clip of the kid saying, "Oh, you're Black Falcon."
Yeah.
Oh, should I call you Black Kid?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that is so dope.
I love that
right?
scene. That was cracking me up.
Yeah, and I was like, it shows the difference where both publishers, writers, and artists are in that spectrum. From it, from touching on those social things, the things that make you connect to your quote unquote heroes, right? And I find it very fascinating that I can just like anybody else will clinch to a story because it gives us hope, or it gives us like a way out of a situation, or we can see that's, even though I know in the back of my mind that somebody's writing the story, somebody's drawing this panel, but it gives you kind of like a different perspective where you can see there can be positive outcomes. And I think both comic houses have their own challenges, right? I think you need both. We need to be able to tell stories to give people, like, not hope, but a perspective, a different neutral perspective. How you can address some issues of race, like the scene in episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the differences of Isaiah and Captain America. Like, how do they treat a black person that could be considered way too powerful? Well, they put him in prison, right? So those subtle nods to, it's cool to have heroes, but do we treat all of our heroes the same way? That scene was set up even with the Black Falcon thing, right?
Right.
I just think it's a cool art form to make you have the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And there was the whole moment right after that, right, where they're walking through the street and the cops show up. And
that made me so angry. That literally, like,
now angry that they put it in there, or
angry because I know it happens.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say this, and I was talking to one of my circle, right? And we were talking about race again, and for the record, I'm 44, right? I have kids that are in their late 20s, early 20s, and my daughter is the youngest of the bunch. I get it. Like I get and accept the way the world the way the world operates. I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't pretend like if I keep my nose down long enough, it won't happen to me. It makes me angry. And I'm in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, the tension and the pressure has only gotten worse. And even I just feel like I honestly don't feel safe in my own country, if I'm being honest. Like, and that's like it's a constant reminder, like I really, that's how I feel. Like I don't feel safe in my own country. My parents are veterans. They served during Vietnam. Have a lot of family members that serve our military. And it's just really, for me, annoying as hell. Like the way I feel about this country, it's like, I love my country, but my country doesn't love me. And that's hard to say. So yeah, that little scenes like that is like picking at a scab. Yeah, it's gonna heal, but for the interim, it's kind of crappy.
Well, and it's like on one hand,
hell, the bank scene, right?
yeah,
He's going to get a loan, right?
Yeah, no, that too. And I guess, it's like because I do understand that is, excuse me, like that's reality for a huge chunk of America, and so it's certainly not that it's like I don't, like don't include that, but I don't, it's like it almost feels like, okay, well, yeah, the story with the, lead black character, we're going to focus a lot on all this racist stuff. But then, if it was a white main character, we wouldn't bother dealing with any of this in any way, in any form, and it just feels weird, I guess, like.
So something I was thinking about today, I was on 40, going eastbound. I saw a Navy veteran driving his Dodge Ram with a small Confederate flag just waving in the wind. And the reality for me is like, oh, there's, hey, thanks for giving me a spotlight. But the challenge still is the conversation. And I think that's where we're falling short as people, right? Like there's a lot of, like I'm anxious and frustrated by the fact that a lot of the violence against Asian Americans right now is happening by Black people, and that is not hyperbole. It's just like the videos that I'm seeing. It's a good amount of Black people. I'm like, all right, so what does that mean about what does that say about our society? So have we gotten to a point where we can we literally let the people that are not in a position to influence fight amongst each other, right? Is that the social construct that we want to live in? And I was talking to my wife last week, and I'm like, what I was thinking about was the Black Lives Matter marches across the country last summer. It wasn't all Black people. It was white, Black, Middle Eastern, Asian, like it was everybody. And where's the, like, then I almost in my head said, well, don't all lives matter? And I was like,
right, but
it's just,
where's the same level of, concern and outrage and protest from those
right.
same groups for, the violence that's being committed across the country against Asian Americans right now?
Yeah, it's like the call to arms should be like, hey, if you're not white, you need to, if you're, and I hate the word ally, but I'm going to use the word, if you're not white or you're an ally, we need to be speaking up about the difference between right and wrong. Period. End of story. Because at the end of the day, if we're not careful, it's going to be some very sick chess game where non-white people are fighting amongst each other about things that affect us all.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, and I think like on one hand, that's kind of the goal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's keep everybody occupied fighting amongst themselves so they don't recognize how strong they could be together, and actually who are the people who are really committing these horrible atrocities against the rest of us, right?
Right.
And it's not some secret cabal, but it's the freaking representatives and people that we vote into office on a regular basis. Like, that's who's doing this.
It's like I have a niece that's half Asian, and I have to worry about my kids, my nieces and nephews, and I'm probably the least likely to be racist, but I do have my own biases, right? Like, so, like, yes,
Are you trying to say that you're the least racist person you know?
I actually told somebody the other day, I was talking to some of my white friends, and you know what they said to me? If I said that I would be racist, I said, yes, you would be.
Yeah.
But I say it because I'm going for the joke, but I also understand the seriousness of that, right? So I in my circle, I have, like, you're in my circle, I have another person in my circle. There are 2 white people in my circle, right? But I said that to somebody I feel comfortable with, but I don't ignore the fact that that's a reality, right? Yeah. And I know I have to. Well, I don't I don't have like a quota of like I have this many white friends. Like, that's not the case. The case is, like, I have to make sure that if I'm being myself, I'll be around people that, you know, I'll grow to have a bond with. I don't really care what color they are. That's never been an issue for me.
Yeah, you can be green, yellow, purple.
As long as you're not stupid, I can probably rock with you. Like, I just don't like stupid people.
I hate it when we get into the whole stupid rainbow colored people conversation, you know, where it's like, I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, purple. Like, how many purple people do you run into?
Yeah. If you don't look like me, but if you think about it, like in a genuine point of view, like, not everybody has your same perspective, right? Like, I know black people that come from the neighborhood, and that's all they see growing up. That's it, right? I know black people that come from the neighborhood and they go to the suburbs, and, you know, and vice versa. I know people that come from the suburbs end up in the hood. Like, it's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But there are things that we have in common, right? I think on a human level, that word that's been abused so often. I mean, we all want to eat. We all want to, like, have a place to live. We all want to provide for ourselves in some shape or form or another. So, you know, that's kind of how I look at it. I sent you an article about millennials turning 40. Do you take a look at that?
I don't think I saw that one. I know we were talking a couple weeks ago about millennials fighting with Gen Z because millennials were trying to cancel Eminem, right?
Or they thought Gen Z were trying to cancel Eminem.
Yeah,
like,
sorry.
I was like, all right, that's weird. But so I sent you that. Well, you didn't get a chance to look at it, but it was interesting. It's like some fun facts, right? So millennials, most of that group is turning 40 now. Right?
Yeah.
They have kids. They're trying to buy homes. Yeah. Right. I just think it's very interesting. Like, the older you get, the more that you have to experience life, like having a family, you know, trying to figure out what you want to do in your career. A lot of your perspective changes, right? We all have those things in common. Like, it's just a matter of being able to shut up long enough to listen to somebody else's point of view, right? Like, I know younger black people that don't have the same life experiences I have, not meaning that, you know, I've collected experience points, but meaning that they may not have been through these life changes, but they have very valid points about things.
Yeah.
For example, the minimum wage thing, that's been like something that I've heard in the news the last couple of days. I think my perspective on it is still wrong. Like, I'm not wrong about how you solve it, but I'm wrong about how I look at it. So I heard a story today about the union efforts at Amazon, and it made me think that maybe like actually something that motivated was SNL did this whole boomers getting vaccinated first video that's been getting a lot of press, and it's actually kind of funny. I'm like, huh, all right, so maybe I'm wrong, and it just kind of made me think like, well, maybe I'm not looking at this whole thing like the gig worker, quote unquote gig worker, point of view very honestly. And the honest part is something I know and I admit there aren't enough jobs. Like, that is a fact. So, and I know we talked on episode 57 about my point of view of like a lot of jobs are started as part-time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I excluded the fact that I also know that there aren't a lot of jobs. So that's why working 32, 35 hours a week or whatever the case may be may have worked well. But I also, well, I did say, back in the early 80s, late 70s, that's how that system was structured. It's just never modified.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of complexities that we just need to shut up and listen to the other side of the conversation.
Well, and I think you touched on it there. Like, what it really kind of boils down to in a lot of cases, and I think where a lot of people have been frustrated, is that it is the same general model that's been in place for 40 years and nothing has changed. Like there's been no effort to try and improve things for those bottom line workers in a lot of cases. And so, it's kind of like, well, we've waited 40 years and, the company hasn't done anything. Consumers aren't doing anything. The employees don't have enough power really to be able to do it. And as you're pointing out, there aren't really jobs for them to go to elsewhere. And so what else are we left with? And I'm still with you that I think, starting at the individual state level, like, what are the state governments doing? Like, get off your freaking butts and govern.
Right.
Pass some legislation. Make things better for people.
It's a complex issue. And I don't use the word complex because it's easier to avoid the fact that it's hard to do. I use it because there's a lot of moving pieces, right? Does that mean that people that have the passion to create industry for people to work at get off their butts and stop being comfortable to help others? Yeah, that's part of it. Do I think $15 is the right benchmark? Actually, I don't. I think it should actually be like $23. So the article I sent you, a guy went to law school. He was making $20 an hour. Like, $20 an hour is like in California is nothing.
Yeah.
Like 20, if I'm being super honest, $20 an hour is nothing.
I mean, the minimum wage there is $12, $13, something like that, right? I mean, and yeah, the cost of living literally
will absorb that
anywhere in California.
Yeah, $20 an hour. Like, what, as an employer, what are you doing to, like, here's my question to people that employ other people, right? Simple. What are you doing to retain your employees? Like, that is a legit question. What are you doing to keep people that want to be there? Now, I struggle with the part of like, if I don't want to be somewhere, I'll go find another job. Okay. And that's most people, but they want to be there. What are you doing to keep them there and to be able to be productive?
Yeah. I mean, we have already discussed how much more expensive it is to replace your employees
ad nauseum. Like, we just it's like,
so why companies seem to just treat them like an everyday commodity that you can go out to the store and buy more of is beyond me,
It blows my mind. It's like, I don't have an answer for that. I would like to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah.
But it's tough. Like the whole, like the minimum wage thing, the union part of it. And I I have my opinion on that. I could be wrong,
Yeah.
right? I could be missing some, or not wrong, but I could be missing part of something deciding that could, pivot my perspective. Um, I'm just amazed. And then I was reading something about how people are taking like for example in New York, a lot of these buildings are going to be, I don't know, empty for a minute
Mm-hmm.
because you don't need them. It's a good opportunity for New York to say, let's make affordable housing.
But will they do that?
I don't think so.
Probably not. Yeah, I was reading something that was talking about how with, a significant chunk of like Manhattan's, employees, the people who worked every day in Manhattan now expected to work remotely permanently. Like, what does that do to all of the businesses along the way? Like everything that basically relied on those commuters to support and sustain them if those commuters go away.
You want to hear my other aha moment? It has to go with like one of my longtime foes, restaurants. I was listening to an economist explain why people open restaurants. It's very simple, and I'm actually disappointed I didn't figure this out myself. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of damn sense, right? The lowest barrier to entry to becoming self-employed is a restaurant. And that's how he explained it.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs to eat. Now, as a person that was in that industry for a minute, I would say, please don't do that to yourself.
Right. Yeah, there's it may have the lowest barrier to entry, but it also has one of the highest barriers to success.
Yeah. But it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Chinese restaurants, Italian food. I'm seeing a lot of Western African restaurants like pop up here and there.
Yeah, there's a couple of Nepalese places around here. There's a lot of like the Korean barbecue places are opening up, and yeah, I mean, like what is Glenwood and all the crap down there is like 30% of those businesses were restaurants that are closed now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like plus it's one of those things that people are always, because it always sounds so easy, right? You just make food, you make good food, and that's all you got to do. But it's like, no, that's not.
That's not even like 25% of it.
Right. Exactly.
Do not open a restaurant.
Yeah.
So I do take back part of my disdain for like all the restaurants. We have way too many restaurants in Wake County. Period.
And that's where I guess, because you made the comment about like people always need to eat. Yeah. But they don't always have to eat your food. Like they have to have a reason to do that.
Well, there is a company that their biggest competitor is the grocery store. It's not other restaurants.
Yeah.
All right. So let me peel back a layer. I used to work in the restaurant industry for a big chain. I will never ever like take shots at any place I ever worked at, probably except for E area, on purpose. But the place I worked at, their biggest competitor since like 2010 was the Harris Teeter down the street. Fast casual. Yeah. They figured something out. People only have like 20, 25 minutes for lunch.
Yep.
Just, they figure out a way to improve their service times to feed people. So that was a close number 2. You fast forward a few years later, and it's Sheets.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, I've never had a good not against Sheets, but I've never had a good experience there. Don't really recommend that. I just want to get gas, and that's about it. But
I mean, I used to. I know everybody used to flip out when Sheets first started showing up here, and
you know why, though, right?
No.
How many people from the Northeast do you know that moved to?
Oh well, yeah, that's true. Good point. Ugh. Anyways. Yeah, like I mean, I used to do the sheet stuff every once in a while, especially if you're like on a road trip going somewhere, you know, and you're driving late at night, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get a burger and some fries, or I'll get a hot dog or so. Yeah, I know, like the worst possible things you could get.
And their friend Wawa.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Those people always make such a big freaking deal about that stuff, and
It's comfort food. You're from the West Coast, bro. You guys,
I still don't understand what that means. Like, you're from the West Coast, bro. You guys don't understand what comfort means. You're all like, California, sushi,
no,
pizza
I'm saying
with pineapples and...
your comfort food is Jack in the Box. Your comfort food is Locos Tacos, right? You guys have
That
your...
is so racist to Californians. You're like,
but you guys
how is this racist? How is he gonna make this racist?
But your go-tos are like your regional foods, right? There's a Jack in the Box in Charlotte. There's actually quite a few.
No, I know there is because they don't have one here,
and they stay packed.
Yes,
and packed is an understatement.
Yes, I do. Like I get it. You know, it's like when they start putting Chick-fil-A's everywhere, right? And yeah, I don't know. I get that. You know, okay. So it would be like if they put In-N-Out Burger here, right?
That's your other, yes.
In-N-Out Burger is probably closer. Because there weren't a lot of those. Because part of it for me was that I grew up in small town California when I was out there. You know, like, I mean, we, like, Folsom, you know, Johnny Cash's prison days, was the next town right down from us, and they got the Walmart before we did. So it was like a big deal when Folsom got the Walmart, because you only had to drive 15 minutes to get to Folsom, which was like 10 minutes, because it was 30 minutes all the way into Sacramento. But so like we had a McDonald's. Like, I think that was, did we even have, no, we didn't even have a McDonald's. We had a gas station, and a grocery store was basically what we had at our exit on the freeway. And then we had all like the little restaurants and stuff like that, like the local stuff. But there weren't that many like chain places that we went to. Red Robin's was the other place that when they finally opened up there, that like every Saturday or Sunday after church, we would go to Red Robin's for dinner.
Is Red Robin's a West Coast
restaurant? I think it is. Because I don't think that they had them here when I first moved here.
Yo, shout out to Red Robin, man. Like,
all right, so I will, and this is my fault because I didn't look at the menu. I'm pretty sure that burger that I got the other day when we were there had mayonnaise on it. And thank goodness that I am not, you know, like I got a couple bites in and I was like, yeah, that tastes like mayonnaise. Whatever. I've already taken a couple of bites. Like, it's already here. What am I going to do?
You got to go for yours. But Red Robin is like brilliant concept. Like from a guy that used to like be all about the menus, but brilliant concept.
Yeah, I loved Red Robin's as a kid. I'd go in there and get the strawberry lemonade, their freckled lemonade.
My daughter loves that.
So when I say every week, it was every week. And
so you're watching The Simpsons and going to Red Robin.
Yeah, and we had the same waiter. Like, we would wait to sit in Matt's section. I remember his name was Matt. Wow. I think my parents are still exchange Christmas cards with he and his wife.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Like, this guy, because he became an assistant manager, and then, you know, I mean, like, my parents make friends everywhere they go.
Yeah, I know one. They're nice people.
They are nice people, and they're very friendly. And so, yeah, like we would always go there. And I would come in and like we would sit down at the table and we wouldn't even order anything. Drinks would appear, and instead of getting like the normal little cup, I would get like the giant beer mug, you know, glass that had a huge freckled. Because I would sit there and drink like 15 of those. And once I had a problem as a kid, and I don't know what my parents were thinking, let me consume all that sugar. But yeah, Red Robin's, that was probably, and then there's this other place, Woody's, because that's where we used to go before we went to Red Robin's. It was basically the same thing. You know, it was like the California version of it. So yeah, I mean, like the burger places, I guess it would be the closest.
Yeah. So I mean, but I get it. So we actually there's a Los Tres in Apex, right?
Yeah.
And we have a waiter, and I'm not going to put his name on blast on the interwebs, but last time we went there, I did tip him like $40. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like he's just that awesome. So
It was like when we used to go to La Cocina across the street, and we would always have the same.
Yeah, I always tip well. Like if I like you, I tip.
What was my nickname?
La Chiquita.
La Chiquita. That's right. Because I always got the small beer.
But you drink like 4 of them. Like why do you drink 4
I had to pace
beers?
myself.
Good night.
Plus, but like you get the giant beer, and by the time you get to the bottom, it's all flat and gross.
Yeah, that's fair. I had a scotch over the weekend, actually 2. Really good scotch. No cigar. But yeah.
I've never been a scotch. I like my high school girlfriend's dad was a scotch drinker, and so I would every year for Christmas I'd buy him a bottle of scotch.
How are you doing that in high school?
My parents would buy me a bottle that I would give to him. But yeah, like, and he would always, oh, you want to have one of these? Sure, yeah. Like, like 12-year Chivas Regal, nothing super fancy or anything. But bourbon was about the only liquor that I can really, other than tequila.
Yeah, my go-to is rum though.
Like, I've never been a huge rum fan. I mean, like if it's in a mixed drink, I don't mind it, but I don't do spiced rum. Like if
you don't smoke cigars though, so that's
no. Like I used to really like smoking cigars, and then when I quit smoking cigarettes, like the cigars just kind of went with it. It was too close. Like it just the flavor and everything. I think like the ashy and that. I don't know. Like the thing that got me about smoking cigarettes after a while was that smell. Like I hated smelling like cigarettes.
Yeah.
And like the smell on my fingers and like just everything was just like, dude, this is gross. Like why?
I was filling up my car a while ago, and somebody was smoking probably 45 yards away from me.
Yeah.
And I could smell them.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I used to smell like that.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Like, and I thought that I didn't smell like that.
Right.
Like, because you don't notice it, but it's like, yeah, when you went outside and smoked 3 cigarettes in a row and then walk right back in and sit down in the office, like, yeah, everybody can now just be like, oh, thanks a lot. I mean, we were the worst. Yeah, I guess no, because you didn't smoke
as much as everybody else.
But wait, did you?
I was like every now and then.
That's right. I forgot that. I was
but I wasn't
just vaping at the time, but
yeah, a lot of people like I never have smoked as much as people around me, like never, because I just think it's kind of weird. Now, if I go out, like if I went out drinking or whatever, I might smoke more than what I normally would, but it was never as much as people around me.
That was where I would usually do the most damage. If I was drinking, then I'd just sit there and puff away.
Yeah. Now I knew people that would smoke, like we'd go out to a bar, they'd smoke like a pack of cigarettes. I'm like, aren't you sick?
I know.
Like, at some point you should be like sick right now.
So gross. I remember I was so happy, like, a year after I had quit, or maybe it was even 2 years after I had quit smoking cigarettes, and I was only using my e-cig, and like I got really drunk one night and somebody offered me a cigarette and I smoked it and I got immediately sick. And I was like so happy. I was like, yes. And that was the last time I ever touched a cigarette.
Yeah. I do like cigars. I like cigars with a rum, or scotch is actually pretty good. I'm more of a beer guy.
Yeah.
My new daily driver might be the Michelob Ultra.
What are you watching the calories, Sally?
Yeah, I'm getting old, man.
Oh, trust me. I went for my physical on Wednesday last week, and my doctor's like, "So, how you doing?" I was like, "Doing pretty good." And he's like, "Let's see. Wait. Oh. Is that the highest you've been?" "Oh, it is." "All right, look." And I'm like, "Oh shit." I got the all right look.
Yeah, you got to go and do some sit-ups, man. That's why yeah, the older you get, man, the closer you get to 40, like
Yeah.
just get a better routine,
Yep.
you know.
And so that's what I've been working on, trying to make some small adjustments in my diet and just recognizing like my late night bowls of cereal and other snacking isn't helping.
Want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
I haven't had a bowl of cereal in almost 6 months. And I cannot believe that. Like I would literally wake up and either get like a bowl of cereal or some freaking Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten
Pop-Tarts
yet.
All about Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, I'm gosh. I don't it's like this healthy life is messing me up with my Pop-Tart game, man.
So you just got to get the healthy Pop-Tarts. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy.
I made this really good it was like a mac and cheese chowder is what they called it. I know. And it's not like mac and cheese, so don't get all up in my grill about this right now, okay? Because I know where you're going. Like I saw that momentary pause, and
yeah, it was judgment pause.
But it was really good. It was actually very tasty.
I did see some. There's some plant-based seafood options coming out. Hopefully this year. I was talking to one of my circle. They've been eating seafood, so they cut. There's no meat, but just seafood.
Seafood's meat.
Yes and no. Okay, so no land. All right, so no land-based meat, right? And I can respect that, but
so lots of dolphin.
Yeah, we kill all the dolphins. It's kind of like I do believe if I could understand the sourcing of my seafood, I would eat seafood.
I feel like if you knew where your seafood came from, you'd never eat seafood.
I do know where my seafood comes from, and that's why I don't eat seafood.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So, so when I lived in Virginia, we lived in Hampton, and on an Air Force base, and we could actually go and like catch crabs. That sounds really weird.
Really? Near an Air Force base? That's shocking.
I know. Like everything that came out of my mouth, and it was kind of like, yeah, that's a joke waiting to happen. But there was a pier that we could literally walk from our house and just literally go catch fresh crab, right? I knew where the crab came from.
Yeah.
Every now and then we go fishing and like, catch. There was some trout and some other non-saltwater fish. Never really been big on saltwater fish, if I'm being honest. Like nobody's ever cooked it to what I would like to eat. So if I could do that, I would probably eat seafood. But being as I can, I just don't rock with it right now. And shrimp, same thing. We could actually go to the same pier, get crab or shrimp, and most of the time we'd catch both. My dad would like do his voodoo that he did so well. And yeah, we eat it. So, but if I could do that, I'd probably eat seafood, but I don't live in that world anymore.
I don't know. Like seafood was never one of those things. I ate fish sticks for a little while when I was a kid, but even then, like, and I know that those are mostly pork. But yeah, like I don't know. Like seafood has always just had this really weird smell and flavor, and it's like there was a brief period of time where I got into tilapia and doing like tacos, made with tilapia, and I would do the tilapia in the pan in such a way that it was almost like ground beef. Like you just kind of keep breaking it up. And then like all of a sudden, like 3-4 times, great. Oh, this is wonderful. Like the 5th time I was like, nope, this tastes like fish. I don't want it. I don't ever, like it was like I'd hold it in my mouth and literally like I was having to, it taking everything within my constitution to keep myself from throwing up.
Yeah.
Like,
but you understand, like gosh, my wife's from a port city in Peru, right?
I know, and I recognize that the dynamic is completely different.
Yeah. So if I could catch seafood like fresh, I would probably like. I don't trust the farming of it, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
No, and I think that was always because like I remember this was a funny story. So I was in Mexico with my dad. We were doing working for the Baja company that did like the off-road tours, and then they also had cars that you could basically rent a seat in the Baja 100 or 1000 or 500. And so we were in Ensenada for, I think it was the 500, and it was towards the end of the race, and we were kind of like hanging out waiting for the team to come down this finish line. And there's this little dude with like a cart, and he's chopping up all this stuff, and we walk over, and he's making fresh ceviche there on the cart.
That's like my crack, yo.
It was so, he was like, here, try some. And he had like little, sample cups basically. And it was so good. Like, oh my, and I'm a guy that doesn't like seafood at all. And I'm like, give me this seafood off of a cart in the streets of Mexico. Like that's, it was up there with the bacon wrapped hot dogs that I had.
Dude, that's like, and we have a friend that he gives me a hard time because when I ate meat and seafood, like, yo, you got to invite me over when you do ceviche, right?
Yep.
And he's like, yep, every time.
I mean, it's like seafood salsa.
Yeah.
Is basically what it is. Like, and that's.
My knees get a little bit weak when I'm turning down ceviche. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, yeah, I could totally just eat that like right now. But, and that may be something I have to decide on what that looks like for me. But for the most part, it's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I feel like, where I'm really at is kind of like, I've made this decision. I'm moving forward with it as best I can. I understand there may be moments where I eat a hamburger that has some mayonnaise on it, right? Or whatever it may be. I may cook something for Helena and be like, I'm going to take like a little nibble. Like,
right.
You know what? Overall,
I'm okay with that.
I'm making a lot of decisions that I'm moving in the right direction and understanding that this is not it wasn't just like flipping a switch,
Right.
Like it took me time to get to this point, and it will still take time for me to continue to evolve and move past this.
That's how I feel about cheese. Like there are sometimes we'll go to a Mexican restaurant and it's kind of like, I'm not going to go to the extent of, is your cheese vegan, or like, I'm like, it comes with cheese. I'm not going to, I'm just going to eat it. Right.
Yeah.
I have a thing for sour cream, right? It's kind of like, I know.
I got to send you my sour cream recipe.
Okay.
Because I have a cashew based sour cream that is it's really good.
Yeah. And there are things where it's kind of like, I'm plant-based first. And, like I've learned to substitute like the cheesy taste in a burger with avocado.
Yeah. Especially when you're out. Yeah, absolutely.
And most places have an avocado spread. So I'm like, all right, I'll just take avocado. Right. And that's so it's not like super strict. Ceviche, I'm not going to lie, man. There's some times like Sunday or Saturday, for example, I was like, but I was okay. Like I moved on. Like
I feel like, and you're going to be like blasphemy for saying this, I feel like you could probably replicate
blasphemy. Like whatever's about to come out of your mouth.
Like I think you could do ceviche, but replace the shrimp or whatever other seafood with tofu.
That is the devil talking.
I know. I told you that you would say that. I recognized that I was crossing a line when I said it, but this is where my brain goes now. Is I see a dish and I'm like, okay, well, how would I make that vegan? Like, what would I substitute this thing?
Okay, to be fair, there's a Peruvian chef that my wife follows, and she's done that with ceviche, and we have not tried it yet.
I'm just thinking because I think if you press the tofu right, it would have a very similar texture to the shrimp or something like that. I don't know.
You're probably not wrong. I might give that a shot next weekend.
The thing would be the flavor, right? Like you got to figure out, and I mean, maybe because they have like
the flavor. If you do ceviche right, it's literally all raw fish, and it's all about the seasoning. Like you never taste the fish.
Well, right, but then it's got like onions and tomatoes and
it's got onions, no tomatoes, lime juice. So I think you might be right.
See, I think, but
See, I'm gonna have to introduce this into my house, and if I die,
then it's on me.
it's all on you.
That's fair. We have video record to say that. Look, Chris put this idea in my head.
Yep,
It's like
gonna
that
be 100.
movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Titanic.
I might actually try that. So a while ago, I made my tofu General Tao's, right?
Yeah.
My mother-in-law loves it, and I thought that she was going to be like the one who said, it's okay, and just like move on. She's always asking for the recipe. I'm like, oh, what up now? Your boy got it.
Nice.
So I might try substituting tofu because I do like ceviche. Like that is one of my, like, it's a hangover food for me. I don't get hangovers a lot, but there's actually a lot of Sundays where I'm just feeling kind of lazy. And
that is like the last thing that I would reach for when I have a hangover. I wouldn't be digging through the fridge like, God, I need some of that ceviche. Like, I was always like, get me to Wendy's. I need a bacon burger and a large Dr. Pepper. Like, that's the only thing that's going to solve my hangover.
Man, we got to get you like some Latino hangover, like medicine, man. Like ceviche is one of those things where it's kind of like, you're great, right? Like, so let's say we have a big party on a Saturday. We'll go to somebody's house the next day. They make ceviche and
everybody's fine.
Everybody's like, great.
So I guess amazing. Like the white version of that is Bloody Marys.
Yes.
Right. Like usually the next morning it's like you have the Bloody Mary with a little bit of vodka in there. So I remember my sister's wedding in Mexico, we did that where it was like, it was weird because they had the wedding, but then we had to be out of the place that we were staying the next morning. And so it was like, we're all hungover as shit. And we get in, we have to drive into town, and they get married in Todos Santos. And so we drive into town, and there's this like little, I don't know, my parents knew this place that they had been, because of course they do. And we go in and we sit down, and we're like, they come out and they're taking our order, and we're like, please tell us you have alcohol. And she was like, the bartender was just leaving, but let me see if I can catch him. Well, the bartender's the owner. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, what do you guys want? And we were like, do you have any Bloody Marys? And he was like, I mean, I'd have to go pick the tomatoes and muddle them fresh. But yeah, I could do that. And so, like, literally one of the best freaking Bloody Marys I have ever had. And that was like that. And whatever I had for breakfast that morning was like, okay, I feel human again. I can ride in the car down to Cabo. We are good to go.
Yeah, like and I always joke about this, but it's probably partially true. Peruvians like party pretty heavily. So my daughter's baby shower, right? Like I wasn't expecting to go to the baby shower because I'm an American male. And like my friends are like, yo, when's the baby shower? I'm like, dude, we're not going to be there. Like, yeah, we are. So it was actually a party. It was a reason for us to have a party. And it started like, I don't know, 6, 7 into like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like it was a great day. Yeah. Next day we had ceviche.
So, always ceviche.
I was like, we're good. This is going to work out great. So, I got to get you to a Latina party. So that way you can understand, like, dude, you remember I would come to work some days. Like I went out dancing last night until like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Oh yeah.
So that was my older life. But now
you would show up and work. I would show up after being out drinking the night before, and I'd be like, I don't feel good. I think I'm gonna go home. And you'd be like, seriously? I swear to God, if you leave me here to do all of this work, I will kill you.
Yeah, you gotta try harder, man. Like
you're like, try harder. Did he he literally just gave me like the verbal nut tap from across the room. Like, dude, sack up.
Dude, when I used to work in restaurants, it would be nothing to this is sad.
Yeah, those are restaurants.
Yeah, like we'd go out to a nightclub and like I'd get home and have to open at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I had my trusty bottle of Tylenol in my dash, go to work, open a store, work until like 3, go home, take a nap, and go out and do it again.
I made a lot of bad decisions when I was really young.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I wasn't that young when we were working together. I was still making bad decisions at that point, but I've gotten a little bit smarter in my older age. I mean, last year for Christmas, I'd have to excuse that or exclude that, I guess. But I learned I did not make the mistake this year around, so I paced myself.
Now this is like you guys are getting to like, oh, these guys are alcoholics. No, we're not. Life is about having fun. It's about
This is basically the only time, like one of 2 times a week that I drink. In fact, tonight, you'll laugh at this. I have to show the camera so everybody can see. I had my second beer prepared, but I wanted it to stay cold because I didn't want it. Fucking warm beer.
You make me so sick.
I know. So I just put it in a little container, but I didn't even get to it. I've been sitting here chatting it up with this guy, and
dude, I've had 3. Well, so here's the
difference. But I've since I stopped working at E Area, my tolerance has gone way down. Now, granted, it actually started before then because I stopped drinking. For a while there. Not like found Jesus, but
Jesus was known to be the life of the party sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's blood was literally wine. This is the blood of Christ. Holy crap, that dude must have been wasted. One of the only funny Family Guy jokes that I still remember.
Yeah. There are some times I watch that show, I'm like, I can't laugh at this.
No, you can't laugh at that. You'll go to hell.
I do believe God has a sense of humor. I mean, that's why we have Ohio.
Yes, and Florida.
In Florida.
He has a very sick sense of humor. That's why we have Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I think I probably drink more light beers. Like, so I don't drink like IPAs and stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, Christy, she's very true to her German roots. And so
she's drinking stouts.
Well, yeah, like she likes a heavier, thicker beer. And so the joke, like we'll go out and I'll get a Kolsch, right? Or I'll get a Pilsner or a lager because that's just me. Like I'm drinking Modelo because I like just like something. I don't want to like chew my beer and I don't want to feel like I, ate a bowl of oatmeal when I'm done with it. Like I want something that ultimately is going to leave like a nice clean palate and that I can just drink and it's kind of like refreshing. And so the joke is that if I can see through it, then it's good for me. That's how I know. Like, so I'll order whatever I'm ordering, and it comes out, and I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, passes the see-through test," and she'll just roll her eyes because she's like, "That is the shittiest beer that you could have ordered."
You're such a child.
And she'll go and get like a Guinness, and
and
then be like, "Well, it's no Smithwick's or whatever the good one is."
The first time I had like a imported like from Germany like heavy beer, I was in Southern Pines and. With my kid's great grandfather, right? Dude, I think I had like probably 4 sips. It killed the experience of my cigar. So we would smoke cigars and talk. And I'm like, Jim, I can't drink this. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm drunk. He goes, are you drunk from that? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm drunk. I'm good. Get like a Bud Light or something, like something to kind of wash this like alcoholism out of my mouth,
Several of the first times that Christy and I hung out, this most recent go around, we went to Total Wine and just bought like a bunch of the different German beers and then came home and just did like a beer tasting. Just like, all right, well, let's open this one. And we'd split it and drink it. And then like, oh, that was okay. All right, let's go try this one next. And so I got introduced to a lot of German beers that way and learned very quickly that she likes a much better beer than I do. Apparently.
Yeah, her beer game is strong.
Yeah, very strong. But that's not surprising.
So we're glad you guys joined us. I just gave Chris a lot of homework. You can always follow us.
A lot of homework.
Well, you're gonna have to edit these episodes, hopefully, for my birthday. You can always follow us at chrisandandreshow.com. We're on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Google Music, or Google Play. And you can take your media player and take our RSS feed and add it to that and listen to us however you like to. We're also on Tuned In.
Tune in, but close enough.
Tune in. We got a lot of and YouTube now. So
I was gonna say, I mean, I've made that mistake before of trying to like jump in to aid you in kind of like, you know, plugging our different channels, and so I was just gonna let that one roll and see if you got to it. But yes, like YouTube has become my new favorite playground, and something that we'll definitely probably talk about. Definitely, probably. Weird combination of words that we will definitely talk about on the next episode because I really want to get into it is YouTube analytics and just kind of like all of the stuff behind there, because this is my first time putting content on YouTube. Like, and it's really got my marketing brain kind of like firing on all cylinders, sitting here wondering like, what can I do with all of this? And I'm sitting there, like, you know, we've got 4 subscribers and like a total of 4.7 hours of watching, which is probably mostly us. And I'm like, how do we join the YouTube partner program? And it's like 1,000 subscribers, over 100,000 hours of watches. And I'm like, we have so far to go. But that being said, it has been a lot of fun. I thank you to everybody that has helped to kind of promote the new channel out there. And yeah, like we've got a couple extra subscribers or new subscribers in the last week. We've got all of our new episodes and trailers are getting published up there. So yeah, Andre may even get into doing some video editing.
Yeah, because that sounds like fun.
He couldn't even convince himself of that.
So for anybody that wonders why we do some of this crazy stuff, part of our working theory is that you can create your own platform. Everything else is just a channel. You can take all those channels and make a platform and not be so dependent on the other stuff. So our growth is organic. We do everything like low cost and, you know, out of pocket.
You know, my doctor said my organic growth on my back was okay.
That's always, I'm glad to hear that. Hi, little Chris, as he pokes out from the back. So we like to have fun with this. It gives us a chance to talk. And we may, like, I think we're probably going to get to a point where we have some guests. And
I know, I was just thinking about that earlier today, even. I was like, how are we going to manage this with guests? Like, I've barely got this figured out where we can record the video, I can get all the audio. And I'm like, God, if we add a third person, I won't be able to distinguish between like Andre and them and all of this, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll figure it out, because I think that the working project is a good example to prove a concept. Like, it kind of drives innovation in my point of view, because once you can actually say, hey, this works, you can figure out ways to make it better. So yeah, I'm all about that. So follow us on Twitter, Chris and Andre. We're also on Facebook at Chris and Andre.
I even posted stuff to Instagram this week.
Man,
I took the trailer from episode 57. This is how dedicated I am to promoting this podcast. I used my phone and screen recorded the whole trailer, edited it down very painstakingly on my phone, and then published it on YouTube or on Instagram so people can watch it on IGTV.
That is another level of commitment I do not have.
I know, right?
I don't even have an Instagram account.
I'll put the podcast on my back.
So we're glad you joined us with our ramblings. Hopefully there's something you like. I'm going to close with saying this, and I think it's very important. So I have like a circle of friends, and they probably hear the same variation of everything I'm thinking about at some level. Nothing's filtered, nothing's changed, but I force myself to talk about how I'm feeling and seeing things so I can be a better person. For me, part of this experience is to hopefully share that with other people. So a lot of times you're not alone. A lot of times your opinions are valid. You could be wrong though, but it's good to get those things out there and talk about them. And I circulate between like, no more than 3 people, same ideas, and my wife, and she's supportive also. I talk to my kids. So I think that a lot of things that we struggle with, it's just having the conversation to validate or invalidate what you're doing. And oftentimes just to, you have a sounding board. So this is very therapeutic for me. And hopefully it gives people an opportunity to like have those conversations. The last couple of shows I watched, a few news stories have talked about people that may need help with their mental life, and whether it be suicide prevention or anxiety or whatever it may be. I think those things are very important. I think it's great that as a society, we're bringing some spotlight to mental health, but a lot of times, just have better friends, have people that are willing to take that journey with you. I'm not saying those things aren't important. I just think that it's also good to have people to take the life journey with you. So, yeah.
I think, it's, I think where people really struggle is when they don't have that support network,
right,
in place. And, you and I think are very fortunate that, especially at this moment in our life, we have, our small circles of friends and family members that we trust and love and care about, and, are there to support us in a lot of ways. But, I think you're absolutely right that it's important for everybody to remember that what you're going through is probably not unique and exclusive to you, that there is somebody else that has either gone through something very similar or is going through it at the same time. And, even just having somebody else out there that you can talk to and, that can be there to help hold you up when you can't do it on your own can make a huge difference.
Yeah. So I've been really pondering like, the mental health question, right? I think it's very important, but I also think that a lot of times is the stigma of talking about your problems, as whether it doesn't matter your gender, if I'm being honest. There should be no embarrassment about that. We all fall, we all fail, we all struggle, and no experience is unique, but it's not that far different from somebody else's. So, if you are struggling with those things, I know COVID's probably exacerbated a lot of those feelings. Dude, pick up the phone, call your homies. You probably can't go out, but you can talk, so
call Andre. His number is 555-362-2175.
That's funny. So, I talk to if you're a parent, talk to your kids. I talk to my kids and they know all my failings, and I'm pretty open about that because I feel as a parent, it's important that they know that, yeah, this is not brand new. And this is how I dealt with it or faced it. I didn't solve it, or I did solve it, or whatever it may be. Because I think that part of your legacy is not about just the finances, but helping your kids to navigate through this crazy and wild world. As a friend, brother, as just a general, I wouldn't say a person. Some people can, jump in the lake, but
that was a nice sentiment until the very last thing you said there, Andre.
Well, there he is. So, I think those things are important. So hopefully if you have feedback, hit us up on one of the many channels. And if you're an aspiring podcaster or YouTuber, learn from our mistakes, and we'd love to hear your feedback. And as always, I'm Andre.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you soon. We're not sure when we'll see you, but we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, I've been doing really good lately, okay?